we went to this trip and saw the place of two poets. One poet whom our Narasimhamurthy ji described just now, the poet of these times, modern times, and the other poet, as in our Sanskritam is called Kavi, was Sri Adi Shankaracharya, who established the Sringeri Sharada Peetham almost 1000 years ago. Our scriptures call the brilliant minds, the wise ones, as Kavi. You have heard it many times. Kavayo vadanti, they say in our scriptures. The great ones, the wise ones have said. And that is the poetry of Adi Shankara, the poetry that brings out the finest truths of sanātana dharma. Many of his compositions, even today, can create a sense of inspiration in the readers, an aspiration to break away from the bondage of ignorance and attain enlightenment. That is the kind of poetry that Sri Adi Shankaracharya has composed. So it was a strange or very happy instance that we saw the place of two poets, one the most ancient one who wrote on the spiritual knowledge of the country, and the other one, the more recent one, whose devotion to God was evident in his poetry. Sringeri Sharada Peetham is the oldest Peethams established in the country by Sri Adi Shankaracharya himself. It has an unbroken tradition of gurus, where the seat of the Guru, Peetham, was never empty. Whereas there are many other Peethams, even those which were established by Sri Adi Shankaracharya, where the paramparā did not continue for all the time. There were breaks in between because of invasions, attacks, and several other reasons. But this particular Peetham holds a special place in the tradition of Guru Parampara of our country, for the unbroken lineage of Gurus who have blessed and occupied that hallowed seat, from where the knowledge of the Vedanta, knowledge of Vedas, was disseminated to all the people. The reason why we visited the Peetham was more from the point of view of finding how this knowledge of Vedanta, this philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, as was promoted and propagated by Sri Adi Shankaracharya, can reach the nooks and corners of the world. Most of the literature is in Sanskritam, and most of the world does not speak Sanskrit, at least as of now. And therefore there is a need, a great need, to translate it authentically into different world languages. Many great scholars from Europe, they made efforts to translate a lot of our Vedic literature and philosophy. However, it was all done from a Western perspective, whereas the need of the hour is to translate these Vedic literature in India by Indians who have thoroughly studied all the scriptures and they understand it thoroughly, so that this knowledge can be authentically disseminated. Many times the message is lost in translation, as they say. And that has happened to many Indian scriptures, where the true message of the Vedas was lost and was misinterpreted and misinformed to the people in another way, in a distorted way. But our effort as a university to work with the Sringeri Sharada Peetham is to bring out the most authentic translation of the Vedic literature, first in English language and then in various world languages, so that all the people in the world may know this wonderful, redeeming, liberating philosophy of Advaita Vedanta, which cuts across all sections of the society, all religions, creed, caste, gender, geographies, because it is one universal thought, core of sanātana dharma. Our Vedas say, Krinvanto Vishwam Aryam. Let us make the whole world as Aryan. Arya means not a particular clan or a group or community. Arya means the noble ones. So our Vedas did mention, let's make the whole world noble. But what is the way to make them noble? Not by policies, not by punishments, not by rewards, but by spreading the right kind of knowledge and helping people of the world understand this great truth of Indian Vedic philosophy. Between the karmakāṇḍas, upāsana kāṇḍas and the jnana kāṇḍas, it is the jnana kāṇḍa which is the soul of Indian literature. Karmakāṇḍa is like the body. Upāsana kāṇḍa is the mind. But the soul of the Indian philosophy is in the jnana kāṇḍa, which is there in the Upanishads. And therefore, even in our Veda Gurukulam, we requested them to design the syllabus in such a way that while they learn the karma kandas, which has much mainly to do with the brahmanas and aranyakas, brahmanas and samhitas, where the mantras are there and how to perform rituals is being described, which most of the Veda Gurukulams do. We must also teach them upāsana kanda, the meditation, the understanding, which is there in the aranyakas. And most importantly, they should also learn the Upanishads, where the jnana kanda, the philosophy, the wisdom of all the Vedic scriptures is there. That would actually help common man, everybody understand the wealth of knowledge, the treasure of knowledge that is there in our Vedas and in our Upanishads, and thereby become better people. Many people asked me this question: what is your purpose of going to Sringeri? The idea is that every time we go to Sringeri, I remember the contribution made by Sri Adi Shankaracharya, a young lad of 8 who walked away from his home in those days. Even today, if you go to the ghats there in Malnad region, it's quite scary in the night. There's one home here and another a few 100 meters away. It's sparsely populated. And in those days, he walked and walked all by himself, a young boy, in search of a guru. And went and met Govinda Bhagavad Pada, who passed on this idea to Sri Adi Shankaracharya that we must revive our Indian traditions and culture. It's going downhill. With the popularity of several other new age religions, the sanātana dharma is on decline. And if we must do something about it, we must do now. And that is how Adi Shankara took upon himself this mission of establishing sanātana dharma, reviving it, propagating it, promoting it, protecting it. And what he did in his little short life of 32 years is there for all of us to see. And therefore, when we go to Sringeri, I remember that young man standing by the banks of Tunga river, closing his eyes and dreaming of a future where the whole of India is reverberating with the knowledge, with the sounds, with the vibrations of the Vedas, of our Upanishads, of the highest wisdom, highest philosophy that's ever possible for all mankind. And his dream to take it to the whole world is my dream too. And therefore, we are working closely and working on finding newer ways, digital ways, easier ways for all of the world to understand this great philosophy of sanātana dharma, which simply says that everything is divine. Īśāvāsya sarvam yat kincat jagatyam jagat. And then not just, it doesn't suffice if you know all are divine. It tells you what to do when you know you are divine. It says, Tena tyaktena bunjitha ma gudhakasya svidhanam. Therefore, now that you know you all are divine, we all are divine, we are one and not two. We are not different from each other at the very fundamental level. What is the way we should lead our lives? What should be our way? How do we conduct ourselves? How do we behave in the society? It says, behave in this way by consuming with the sense of sacrifice. Take what you need, but beyond that, it does not belong to you. Ma gudhakasya svidhanam. Don't take another man's wealth, it says. What does that mean? It does not mean somebody who has earned a lot of money stored in the bank, that is that person's wealth. Somebody who has a lot of properties registered in the name is that person's wealth, which he has rightfully accumulated, amassed. Our scriptures say anything that a person does not need does not belong to that person. It belongs to somebody else who is in greater need of the same thing. Even though we might have the means, power, ability to get that, but if we don't need it truly, it does not truly belong to us. It belongs to somebody who is in greater need, whose need is greater. That is the beauty of Indian Sanatana Dharma. See, it is not there in any other scripture. Other scriptures, other religions, other philosophies talk about charity, talk about compassion, talk about giving. Every religion talks about charity, without exception. But our Sanatana Dharma says, it's not charity, it's your duty. It's the very way of your life. It's the way you should conduct yourselves, having known the truth that everybody is divine. It's not an additional effort to be kind to somebody. It is the way of life. It should be your very nature. Look at the way our Sanatana Dharma elevates the very thought of compassion. To not just compassion or pity, but to love, to oneness. Where you do things because it's natural to do once you know everybody is divine. It does not give you the special privilege of feeling good about having given away something to somebody in charity and feel nice about yourself. It does not allow you. It simply says if you are not doing, you should feel bad that you haven't done, you have not lived your life rightfully. It is so straight and so clear. And I want this idea to spread to the whole of the world. And that is the reason why I was going to Sringeri, taking our students, working with them to ensure that this knowledge gets disseminated, translated and understood by the whole world. One way that can help the whole world, it is only the Indian way. And the Indian way is the way of Sanatana Dharma. And the way of Sanatana Dharma is the way of Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta is the only way that the world can be redeemed. It can be freed from the present issues and problems. And people can live in harmony and peace. That's possible only if people of the world subscribe to this idea of oneness of all existence as divinity, which is the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta of Sanatana Dharma. There are two ways to approaching it. You may experience it first and then you start behaving that way. Or you start behaving as is expected of you and you will end up with the experience of oneness. The second way is easier. Second way is more practical. You start behaving like God, I say. You pretend, you tend, and then you end being God. So begin with pretending that I am God, divine, I am divine. That's what my scripture says. That's why Guru says. Therefore, I must behave like divine. And what does divinity do? It loves, it serves, it is selfless, it is without any attachment, it is without any expectations. So if I start living like that, sooner or later, I will experience that oneness. And that oneness will further help me remain selfless and pure and desireless. So this is the cycle. Each helps the other. The path and the destination is not a straight line, it's a circle here. You start in one place, the same place again. Start with selflessness, you understand your divinity. You experience your divinity, you obviously remain selfless. That is the way of Sanatana Dharma. We never felt that doing help to others was a great thing to do. It was not even duty, it was simply expression of one's divinity to be of some use, to be kind, to be compassionate to each other. It was simply the expression of one's own life. No special thing about being good. Good is what you are supposed to be, any which ways. So this is the idea that I want to take, especially with the young people of the world. We have lost a whole generation to some absolutely distorted versions of spirituality. That makes me really, really sad because people have understood spirituality in their own way because they have subscribed to all kinds of ideas, especially the rise of too many gurus everywhere with their own ideas of what spirituality is. Some say hanging upside down is spirituality. Some people say starving and not breathing is spirituality. Some people say running away from home and family is spirituality. Some others say reading up piles and piles of books is spirituality. None of this is spirituality. These are all ways and means people have taught is spirituality. Spirituality is simply the expression of that divinity in every life, in every existence through selfless love. Wherever you are, it doesn't matter. What you do, it does not matter. How you do it does not matter as long as you do it selflessly with the idea that all are one, all are divine. And that's as simple as that. And anyone who does it is spiritual. Others can be religious but cannot be spiritual. But the one who does this is definitely spiritual. That is Sanatana Dharma. And that is the idea I want to take to the world. And I hope that our university students will understand this idea. And many, many Shankaracharyas will come out of our university who will take this idea, this message of Sanatana Dharma to the whole world. So be ready. Be ready always for this great work that is coming your way. And it is your singular privilege to have been chosen to even undertake a mission like this. It's not given to everyone. But the need of the hour is that we need many, many more youngsters like Shankaracharya. You don't have to shave your head, you don't have to wear ochre robes, you don't have to wear wooden sandals and walk around. Just be as you are. But your mind should be purified, your thoughts should be elevated, and your expression in life should be that of your divinity which is within. Everything should be the expression of that. That's all I expect from students. Nothing more, nothing less. So I hope you will all do like that, and that will help the whole world. This is our way. It may happen in our lifetimes or it may happen beyond that. It does not matter as long as we have made a good start. I'm sure someday or the other this will be achieved. So that privilege, that honor is yours. Be grateful, be mindful of what has come your way and work towards that. Having said so much about Adi Shankaracharya, I will not fail in mentioning the great literature of Kuvempu also. And I'm not a Kannada person like our Narasimhamurthy ji, who has read a lot of Kannada literature. But something is there about his poetry, something is there about his philosophy that touches my heart, because there is some kind of a purity in it, which is not there in most of the poets. So I have seen, I always think of him as the Rabindranath Tagore of Karnataka, who has brought out the similar kind of ideas and philosophies. The expression of nature, people's relationships, the societal values, and more importantly, the philosophy of spirituality that is expressed in his literature is definitely a class apart. And I hope that our Kannada students who had come, they will help in compiling some of those, some of the poetry and some of his prose also, the literature, into a book which will help many more youngsters to understand the depth of his idea about God and society. So that is also a good work that can be undertaken. More than anything else, as I said, this is the time when we have to do this. If this time passes, even we've put a lot of efforts, we may not find success. So this is the time, this is the place, these are the situations in which it can be done. Therefore, I am working double shift to ensure that it is done within this time and we don't lose time. And you also should cooperate and walk alongside and help each other grow spiritually and also help the whole world become Aryam. Aryam means noble. Noble means divine. That is our work, that is our mission. May you all succeed with sincere efforts and divine grace. With these blessings, I conclude.